The call came in while I was sitting alone in a business hotel room in Boston, watching rain drag silver lines down a window that did not open. My laptop was glowing on the desk in front of me, frozen on slide 32 of a client presentation I had spent 3 weeks building and 10 years pretending was the most stressful part of my life. It was not. The most stressful part of my life was lighting up my phone. Adrian Vale. Even before I answered, my body knew what he wanted. My stomach tightened. My left hand, the one without my wedding ring anymore, curled around the hotel pen until the plastic cracked faintly between my fingers. For years, that name on a screen had meant I was about to be corrected, inspected, mocked, billed, or punished. For years, I had answered too quickly, as if speed could prove devotion. That night, I let it ring 3 times. When I finally picked up, Adrian did not say hello. "You forgot to send my $3,000, he said. "Are you trying to make me divorce you?" His voice had that careful sharpness he used when he wanted me small but alert, not screaming yet, not ugly enough for a stranger to recognize as abuse, just cold enough to remind me where I belonged. I looked at my reflection in the dark hotel window. 42 years old, senior account director, navy blouse, hair pinned back, eyes too tired for the woman I used to be. "I heard you," I said. Silence. Adrian hated silence when he was not the one using it. "What does that mean?" he snapped. "You heard me? Claire, this is not a customer service interaction. I am your husband." I almost laughed at that word. Husband. He said it the way some men say owner. Outside, tires hissed over wet pavement. Somewhere down the hall, an ice machine coughed. My laptop fan hummed like it was bracing itself. "I'm asking what you spend it on," I said. Another pause. Shorter this time. More dangerous. "Excuse me?" "The 3,000. I pay the rent. I pay utilities. I pay the insurance. I pay your phone, the groceries, the streaming accounts, the co-working membership you barely use. So what exactly do you spend it on?" He gave a small laugh, the kind designed to make me feel embarrassing. "Do you hear yourself? I have professional lunches, transportation, networking, basic dignity. Do you think powerful people sit in their apartments eating cereal while their wives fly around pretending to be important?" There it was. The job. He always found his way back to my job. "I'm in Boston for a client meeting," I said. "You're in Boston because your company enjoys turning you into a masculine little errand girl with a laptop. Don't get that confused with importance." 3 years earlier, that sentence would have made me apologize. 2 years earlier, I would have transferred the money while crying quietly in the guest bathroom, then come back and thanked him for being patient. Even 6 months earlier, I might have defended myself, which would have thrilled him, because defending myself meant I was still playing inside the courtroom he built in our marriage, where he was always judge, jury, victim, and executioner. But by that night, something inside me had already gone still. "That money needs to be in my account by noon tomorrow," he said. "Do you understand me? Noon. And don't use that flat little voice with me. You are not superior because you have a salary. You are lucky I stayed with you long enough to give your life shape." I opened my briefcase with one hand and looked at the sealed envelope tucked beneath my printed travel itinerary. Heavy cream paper, my attorney's return address in the corner. I had not opened it since Theo handed it to me 2 days before and said, "Keep this with you until you are somewhere safe enough to read it." Adrian was still talking. "A 42-year-old divorced woman with your face and your personality doesn't get a second chance, Claire. Remember that? Before you start pretending you're brave." The cruelty landed, but not the way he expected. It did not pierce me. It joined a pile so large it no longer had edges. Maybe that is what people do not understand about slow abuse. The first insult feels like a wound. The 1,000th becomes furniture. You learn to walk around it. "Are you done?" I asked. His breathing changed. "You send the money by noon," he said. or I swear to God, I will divorce you before dinner." Then he hung up. For a long moment, I did not move. I listened to the rain. I listened to my own heartbeat. I listened to the absence of his voice. Then I touched the sealed envelope and whispered into the dim hotel room, "You should have stopped using that word as a weapon, Adrian." Because by the time Adrian realized what was inside that envelope, he would already have no wife, no home, and no one left to blame. People who met me at work always thought I was calm by nature. Kendra Wallace, my boss, once told a nervous client, "Claire is who you want in the room when something is on fire." At our Manhattan logistics and supply chain firm, that was considered high praise. I handled delays at ports, labor shortages, contract disputes, emergency reroutes, impossible budgets, and executives who believed volume was the same thing as leadership. I could sit across from a man who controlled a 9-figure shipping account and explain without blinking why his demand was unrealistic. Then I would go home and ask permission to buy a $38 pair of shoes. I know how that sounds. I know people will ask why I stayed. I asked myself that every day, usually while brushing my teeth beside a man who had not worked a real job in 7 years and still found a way to make me feel unemployed in my own marriage. The truth is, I did not feel trapped all at once. I was trained slowly. When I met Adrian, he was not the monster people later wanted him to have been from the beginning. That would have made the story easier, but it would not have been true. He was charming in the exact way exhausted women mistake for certainty. We met at a fundraiser through a mutual acquaintance. He wore a charcoal suit, quoted books he had half read, and listened to me with such theatrical attention that I felt illuminated. Back then, he worked for a financial services company. He told me he was underused there, surrounded by mediocre men who feared his talent. He talked about leaving to build his own consulting firm one day. Strategy, growth, market positioning. All the words sounded expensive and clean. I had spent my 30s building stability through discipline, and Adrian made instability sound like genius waiting for oxygen. He made me feel chosen. 3 years into our marriage, he left his job. He came home early on a Thursday afternoon, loosened his tie, poured 2 fingers of my father's expensive bourbon, and announced that he was free. They wanted compliance, he said. I was born for leadership. Revenue did not follow. A month became 6. 6 months became a year. He had meetings, lunches, prospects, leads, almost clients, delayed contracts, promising conversations. He always had motion, never income. The first time he asked me for money, it was $400. "Just to bridge a slow week, why," he said, kissing my shoulder while I stood at the stove making dinner after a 12-hour workday. "You know it's temporary." Temporary became $800, then $1,500, then $2,000. By year 7, he called it his monthly allocation. By year 8, he called it his allowance only once when he wanted to humiliate me for resenting it. $3,000 every month. $3,000 was the price of keeping him calm. I paid everything else directly. Rent on our 2-bedroom apartment in Queens, utilities, internet, health insurance, groceries, his gym membership, his phone. The co-working space he used mainly as a place to take selfies with a laptop open beside black coffee. He wanted his $3,000 untouched deposited into his personal checking account, where I would not see how quickly it vanished. I delayed dental work for 18 months. I wore coats until the lining shredded. I stopped buying makeup and told myself I preferred simplicity. I ate peanut butter sandwiches at my desk while Adrian posted photos of truffle pasta, rooftop cocktails, and client development dinners with captions about betting on yourself. If I questioned him, he never answered the question. He answered the person I was. "You think like an employee," he would say. Or, "This is why you will always need me. You panic at investment." Or, A good wife funds her husband's ambition. A mediocre wife itemizes it. Sometimes he was softer, and that was worse. I know you're scared, he would murmur, wrapping his arms around me from behind while I stood rigid at the sink. You grew up around safe people. You don't understand what it takes to become exceptional. But I'm building something for us. For us? That phrase stole years from me. My parents noticed pieces of the truth without seeing the shape of it. My mother, Margaret, asked why my clothes hung loose. My father, Daniel, frowned when he saw me patching the same black flats with glue. Sweetheart, he said once, you work too hard to look this tired. I lied so smoothly it frightened me. We're fine. Adrian's business is about to turn a corner. I was successful everywhere except in the room where I slept. And the worst part is, I still might have stayed if I had not seen the receipt. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday, which made it crueler. Betrayal should announce itself with thunder. Mine arrived as a tablet notification while I was folding Adrian's laundry. He had left his iPad on the bed, unlocked, while he showered. I was matching his socks because he said he hated when I stretched them wrong. The screen lit up. So, Madison Pike. Last night was perfect. I still can't believe you spoiled me like that. Next time, don't forget you promised the weekend suite. For a moment, my brain refused to assemble the sentence. It floated in pieces. Last night, spoiled me, weekend suite. I stood there holding one of Adrian's socks, like evidence from a crime scene. The shower was running behind the bathroom door. Steam curled under the frame. I should have put the tablet down. I should have walked away. That is what the old Claire would have done. She would have protected herself from knowledge because knowledge demands action. Instead, I opened our credit card app. There was a secondary card Adrian used for business incidentals. I rarely looked closely because looking invited a fight, and fights with Adrian were not arguments. They were weather systems. But that night, I scrolled. Designer boutique in Soho, $1,186. French restaurant, $438. Hotel bar, $212. Luxury spa deposit, $300. Rideshare after rideshare to an address in Williamsburg. The dates lined up with transfers from me. My $3,000 came in. Madison got dinner. Madison got perfume. Madison got a spa deposit. Madison got proof that a man knew her worth. I searched her name with fingers so cold I could barely type. Madison Pike was 29, a boutique marketing consultant with a small lifestyle account full of cream-colored outfits, hotel mirrors, brunch plates, and captions about feminine energy. 3 posts down, she stood on a sidewalk holding a designer handbag I recognized from the statement. Spoiled by a man who knows my worth? I stared at that sentence until the letters blurred. That was what broke me, not just the affair, not even the humiliation. It was the arithmetic. I had skipped meals so he could feed her. I had worn torn shoes so he could buy her leather. I had drained my savings so he could become generous in another woman's photographs. I expected to cry. I did not. That scared me more than the affair itself. He slept beside me that night, breathing deeply, one arm heavy across my waist like a chain. I stared at the ceiling until dawn. The next morning, I created an email address Adrian did not know existed. On my lunch break, instead of eating, I searched for private investigators in New York who handled domestic financial documentation. That was how I found Mara Singh. Mara's office was not glamorous. No frosted glass, no dramatic blinds, just a small room above a dental clinic in Brooklyn with a desk, 2 chairs, and a woman in her 40s who listened without changing expression. I apologized before I even finished explaining. I know this probably sounds paranoid, Bus, I said. Maybe it's just an affair and I'm making it. You're not trying to catch a cheating husband, Mara interrupted gently. You're documenting financial abuse. The words entered me like clean air. Financial abuse. Not marital stress, not lack of support, Not me being cold, anxious, difficult, small-minded, bitter, aging, jealous, insufficient. Abuse. Over the next 6 weeks, the folder grew. Photos of Adrian and Madison entering restaurants. A hotel lobby shot where he touched the small of her back with the intimacy he denied me at home. Receipts matched to my transfers. Screenshots of Madison's posts. Evidence that Adrian told her he was separated, wealthy, and waiting for a business payout. Messages where he called me controlling and unstable. More messages where he called me his funding source to a friend who thought it was funny. Then Mara found the older lie. Adrian's grand exit from finance had not been grand. He had been pushed out during an internal ethics investigation involving expense manipulation and misrepresented client communications. There had been no criminal charge, but there had been enough smoke for him to reinvent himself before anyone else could name the fire. When Mara told me, I sat in my car outside a pharmacy and laughed until I made a sound that was almost a sob. His whole life had been a brochure printed over rot. 7 weeks before Boston, Adrian had made the mistake that saved me. We had fought because I questioned a $900 charge from a boutique hotel bar. He accused me of spying on him. I accused him of spending money we did not have. His face changed. Not anger exactly. Enjoyment. He walked into our home office, returned with a packet of documents, and threw it across the kitchen island. "Here," he said. "File it if you think you can survive without me." It was an uncontested separation and divorce packet, signed, notarized. He had arranged it months earlier, probably as theater, probably so he could wave it over me whenever I resisted. The agreement was not generous, but it was clean. Separate bank accounts, no spousal support, no claim to my retirement beyond what was already separately designated, no shared property except household belongings. He had signed because he believed I was too afraid to use it. I remember touching the signature line. "Why would you sign this?" I asked. "Because I'm not the coward here," he said. "You are." That night, while he slept, I put the packet in a bank-safe deposit box. I did not file it then. I wish I could tell you I became brave immediately. I did not. I kept going to work. I kept transferring money. I kept living inside the delay between knowing and leaving. But the packet existed, and something in me began measuring days differently. Theo was in his late 50s with silver hair, tired eyes, and the calm voice of a man who had watched too many people mistake drama for strategy. His office overlooked Madison Avenue, but there was nothing flashy about him. No promises, no outrage for performance. He took my folder, put on reading glasses, and began. I sat across from him with my hands twisted in my lap and said, "I'm sorry if this isn't serious enough for your time." He looked up after reading 3 text messages. "Claire, this is serious," he said. "This is abuse." I broke down so quickly, it embarrassed me. Not elegant crying, not a single cinematic tear. I folded forward and covered my face as 10 years came out of my body in ugly, breathless waves. Theo slid a box of tissues across the desk and waited. When I could speak again, he did not tell me I was brave. He did not say we would destroy Adrian. He said, "We need a plan." That was when I understood the difference between fantasy revenge and survival. Theo was careful. He explained that the signed packet might be usable because Adrian had executed it voluntarily. But Adrian could try to challenge timing or claim coercion if he discovered the filing before the judgment entered. He warned me not to taunt him, not to threaten, not to provoke. Preserve evidence, secure documents, protect accounts, protect my parents, move irreplaceable items before Adrian knew the money was stopping. "Men like your husband often escalate when the old system stops feeding them," Theo said. "My parents," I whispered. He nodded. "Has he threatened them?" "He says he'll call them." Tell them I'm failing as a wife. Sometimes he says my father should be ashamed. Then assume he may go to them. I wanted to say, Adrian would never. But I had said that too many times. About too many things he eventually did. That weekend, I drove to Westchester to tell Daniel and Margaret the truth. My parents' house had always smelled like lemon polish and coffee. My mother kept hydrangeas by the front walk. My father kept old baseball scores and notebooks he pretended were important records. It was the safest place I knew, which made it the hardest place to confess that I had been unsafe for 10 years. I brought a folder. I placed it on the kitchen table between us. For several minutes, I could not open it. My mother reached across and covered my hand with hers. Claire, I need to show you something, I said. And I need you not to ask me why I didn't tell you sooner until I can get through it. The first message my mother read made her cover her mouth. My father took the next page. His face changed slowly, as if each line was aging him. How long has he been talking to you like this? That was the text at the top, from Adrian to me, 2 months earlier. No successful man would tolerate your coldness. You should be grateful I still touch you. My father did not finish reading aloud. He put the paper down. How long? Then he asked. The question was quiet. That made it worse. 10 years, I said. My mother made a sound I had never heard from her before. My father stood, turned toward the sink, and gripped the edge with both hands. Daniel Donovan had survived a heart attack at 68 and learned to move through life with measured caution. But rage has its own pulse. I should have seen it. He said. No, I said immediately. I hid it. Why? I said only, I didn't know how to stop carrying it. My father turned back. His eyes were wet. Then tonight is the last night you carry that shame alone. Theo had already recommended precautions, and my parents, bless them, did not argue about the cost. Within days, cameras went up at the doors, the driveway, and the back patio. Motion lights, alarm monitoring, a formal no trespass notice filed with local police. My mother, who once thought doorbell cameras were for paranoid neighbors, watched the installer mount one above the front porch with the expression of a soldier inspecting a gate. Then they moved temporarily into a short-term condo under my mother's maiden name. The house stayed furnished, lit on timers and monitored, but empty. I hated that my marriage had reached into their retirement. I hated Adrian for that more than I hated him for Madison. Meanwhile, I began dismantling my life one quiet piece at a time. I moved my passport, birth certificate, tax documents, jewelry, and family photos to a storage unit. I opened a new checking account at a bank Adrian did not use. I redirected my salary. I froze my credit. I removed him as authorized user where I could and flagged suspicious charges where I could not. I created a private email. I told HR that I was leaving an abusive domestic situation and that my estranged husband might attempt to contact my workplace. Saying those words to Kendra Wallace made me feel like I was stepping naked into a conference room. Kendra listened, then closed her office door. Do you need time? She asked. I need work, I said. But I need them not to tell him anything if he calls. They won't, she said. And Claire, I am very sorry. Compassion almost undid me more than cruelty. The Boston trip became the chosen moment because it already existed on my calendar. A major client presentation. 2 nights away, physical distance. Theo said distance would help. It keeps you from reacting, he told me. And right now, reaction is what he wants. The night before I left, he called. The court accepted the filing, he said. If nothing changes, the judgment should be entered tomorrow morning. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the half-empty closet Adrian had not yet noticed. My heart beat so hard it hurt. Tomorrow morning, the storm was coming. In Boston. After Adrian threatened me over the allowance and hung up, I did not sleep much. I lay in the hotel bed with every light off and my phone face down on the nightstand, as if darkness could muffle him. At 3:17 a.m., the screen flashed. At 4:02, again. By 6:12, when I finally reached for it, there were 11 texts. Bank opens soon. Don't embarrass yourself today. I'm not playing with you. If I don't see the money by 9:30, I'm calling your parents. You are making a very serious mistake. Claire, answer me. The rain had stopped. Boston outside my window looked washed and indifferent. I showered, blow-dried my hair, and put on my navy suit. Then, for the first time in weeks, I opened the small makeup bag I had nearly stopped using and put on lipstick. Not for beauty, for armor. In the mirror, I looked less like a victim than I felt. Get through the meeting, I whispered. Then get through the fire. By 8:45, I was in a glass-walled conference room overlooking the harbor, connecting my laptop to a screen while men in expensive watches balanced paper cups of coffee and made jokes about shipping delays, as if delays were weather rather than labor. At 9:29, my phone vibrated inside my bag. At 9:30, it vibrated again. Then again. Then again. I did not look. I presented for 74 minutes. I talked through route optimization, port congestion, contingency warehousing, customs risk, revised cost models, and implementation timeline. I answered every question. I watched a skeptical operations VP lean forward, then nod. I heard myself speak with a steadiness I could not feel. Later, Kendra texted from New York. That was the calmest I've ever seen you under pressure. I stared at the message in the lobby afterward and almost laughed out loud. If only she knew that my entire body had become a locked door. At 10:41, I walked outside, sat on a bench cold from last night's rain, and opened my phone. 23 missed calls, 6 voicemails, dozens of texts. Useless. Ungrateful. Fraud. Bad wife. Aging corporate mule. You think a client wants you? Trust me, Claire, nobody wants you when they're not being paid to sit across from you. Then the message that turned my blood to ice called your parents. Your father knows what kind of daughter he raised. My hands trembled, but not from surprise, from confirmation. Theo had been right. Adrian was reaching for whatever he thought I still loved. I called Theo first. Do you feel safe? He asked. Yes. I'm outside the client building. Good. Do not meet him. Do not warn him. If you call him, ask short questions only. Let him talk. Do not make threats. When I called Adrian back, he answered on the first ring. Oh, now you remember you're married, he said. Did you call my parents? I asked. Of course I did. What did you tell them? I told them their daughter abandoned her duties and ran off to Boston to play executive. I told them you cut off your husband like a vindictive little accountant. I told them you're probably spreading your legs for some client while I'm here, wondering if I can even buy lunch. The words hit, but the shame did not rise. That was new. Did you demand money from them? I asked. I told your father he raised a woman who doesn't understand loyalty. If he wants to fix the mistake, he can send what you owe. What I owe? Yes, Claire. Oh, you are not my partner. You are my funding source. At least have the decency to perform the function. There it was. Clean, ugly, undeniable. Is that what Madison calls me too? I asked. Your funding source? The line changed, not silence, impact. Then Adrian exploded. You had no right to spy on me. I asked a question. Madison respects me. Do you understand that? She sees potential. She sees a high-value man. She doesn't sit there counting dollars like some bitter, middle-aged payroll clerk. Does she know the dollars are mine? She knows enough. Does she know I pay for the dinners? Those dinners are business development. With Madison, she understands image. She understands that a man building something needs a woman who believes in him. And I'm the one who pays for the image. His breathing turned ragged. You made me do that. You made this marriage so cold that I had to find someone who could remind me who I am. For years, that sentence would have gutted me. That day, all I heard was confession. I'm going to your parents' house if that money doesn't land, Vike, he said. And when I'm done there, I'm going back to the apartment and putting every ugly thing you own on the curb. Maybe then you'll remember who gave you a life. Why aren't you crying? He demanded suddenly. I looked up at the cloudy Boston sky. Because I finally heard you clearly. He hung up. I sent the audio file and voicemails where Theo instructed. 30 seconds later, he texted. Received? This helps. Not we won. Not it's over. Just this helps. That steadiness kept me from floating into panic. Then my phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost did not answer, but something about the timing made me swipe. A woman's voice came through, high and shaking. This is Madison. You don't know me, but Adrian is on his way to your parents' house. Reality was me standing on a Boston sidewalk with wet leaves stuck to my heel, listening to her sob. He came to my apartment, Madison said. He was furious. He said you cut him off. He wanted me to lend him money, like a lot of money, and when I said I couldn't, he started screaming. Where is he now? I think he's driving. He said he would get it from your parents himself. He said old people scare easy. My vision narrowed. Madison, listen carefully. Did he say their address? Yes, Westchester. He said he had been there for holidays. Why are you calling me? She made a small broken sound. Because I didn't know. Not all of it. He told me you were separated. He said you controlled the money because you were punishing him. He said his company payout was delayed. He said you were unstable and he couldn't leave until the finances were clean. And the dinners? The gifts? I thought he had money, she whispered. I wanted to believe he had money. That was the first honest thing she said. I closed my eyes. Madison, you were not innocent. But if you are warning me because someone may get hurt, I'm listening. I'm sorry, she said. I did not answer that. Forgiveness was not something I had available for her, and I was done spending what I did not have. I called my mother. No answer. I called again. No answer. On the third try, she picked up, cheerful and breathless. Claire? Honey, I was in the bathroom. Did your meeting? Mom, leave the house right now, I said. Don't argue, don't pack, don't turn lights off. Just get Dad and leave. Her voice changed. Is it Adrian? Yes. Go to the police station. Call me from the car. She did not ask for proof. That is what still makes me cry when I think about it. She heard something in my voice and obeyed. I called the local police. My voice sounded like someone else's, while I gave Adrian's full name, vehicle description, recent threats, the no trespass notice, my parents' ages, my father's heart condition, and Theo's contact information. Then I called Theo. He was already moving. The security company can give us live access, he said. Do not call Adrian again. Do not provoke him. Let responders handle him. So I sat on that bench in Boston and watched my parents' home through a security feed on my phone. For 8 minutes, nothing happened. The hydrangeas moved in the wind. A delivery van passed. My mother called from my father's car and said they were 5 minutes from the police station. My father got on the phone and said, "We're all right, sweetheart," in a voice too calm to be real. Then Adrian's car pulled into the driveway. He got out wearing a dark jacket, his hair wind-blown, his face already twisted with the injustice of consequences. He marched to the front door and pounded with both fists. "Daniel," he shouted, "open the door. Don't hide behind your wife like Claire hides behind spreadsheets." His voice through the camera speaker was distorted, monstrous, but unmistakable. He rang the bell, pounded again. "Margaret, I know you're in there. You raised a useless daughter. Now you're going to fix her." I gripped the phone so hard my hand cramped. He went to the side of the house. For one irrational second, I thought he would leave. Instead, he returned from his car with a tire iron. I heard my own breath stop. He swung at the side window frame. The alarm screamed. Adrian staggered back as if the house had struck him. Lights flashed. Somewhere nearby, a dog began barking. He looked around, suddenly less powerful, suddenly just a man on camera holding a tire iron outside an empty house. Police arrived minutes later. Adrian tried to become respectable. I watched it happen. His shoulders dropped, his free hand opened, the voice softened. This is a family matter, he told the first officer. I'm the son-in-law. The officer said something I could not hear. Adrian pointed at the house, then at himself. His face reddened. When the officer reached toward his arm, Adrian shoved the hand away. That was the moment he stopped being my private nightmare and became public record. They arrested him on the lawn where he had once eaten my mother's peach cobbler and complimented her silverware. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt like my bones had dissolved. I was still sitting there when my phone rang again. This time, it was the property manager from my apartment building. Miss Donovan, she said, voice tight with alarm, your husband is on the 15th floor balcony throwing furniture into the street. The apartment in Queens had never really been home. Not after the first few years. It became a place where I learned to listen before turning keys in the lock. A place where I could identify Adrian's mood by the way his shoes hit the floor. A place where I deleted cruel texts before dinner guests came because I could not bear the possibility of someone seeing him clearly and making me choose. It was where I learned to chew quietly, where I learned not to ask why a grocery charge was too high, but a cocktail bill was investment. Where I learned that silence could mean survival if I held it correctly. And a week before Boston, it had become the first prison I emptied. I took family photos, documents, jewelry from my grandmother, my work laptop, 2 framed prints I had bought before marriage, my winter coat, my best black dress, a ceramic bowl my father made badly in a retirement class and gave me with such pride I could never throw it away. The good knives, the passport, the safe deposit key. What remained were things I had already emotionally abandoned. Broken dining chairs, Adrian said, were too ugly to replace until I learned taste. Old storage boxes. Cheap decor he had mocked. A scratched bookshelf. Thrift store clothes he had called embarrassing. The couch where he slept when he wanted me punished by his absence. The lease was mine alone. It had always been mine because Adrian said being on paperwork was administrative clutter beneath him. Theo helped me give proper notice weeks earlier. The lease was scheduled to end that day. The building was prepared to change locks afternoon. I had paid final balances. I had done everything cleanly, quietly, legally. Adrian did not know that when he returned from Westchester. He must have been released pending appearance, still furious, still convinced the world would bend if he hit it hard enough. He arrived at the building and found the apartment half empty. He found drawers cleared, closets missing my clothes, the filing cabinet stripped of everything that could be used against me. That was when he went to the balcony. The property manager stayed on the phone with me while residents screamed in the background. He's dragging boxes outside, she said. Security is on the way. Police have been called. A crash came through the line so loud I flinched. What was that? A chair. Oh my God, he threw a chair. I pictured it falling 15 floors, legs spinning before smashing against the iron fence below. Pedestrians scattered. Someone shouted. Car alarms began. Then came another crash. Then another. Later, I saw the videos. Neighbors filmed from windows and balconies. Adrian, face red, shirt untucked, dragging pieces of our old apartment into open air and hurling them down like a man making sacrifices to his own humiliation. You want to leave with dignity? He shouted. I'll show everyone what you are. A cardboard box split open midair, raining clothes over the sidewalk. A lamp shattered. Books fanned across the street like frightened birds. A cheap side table burst apart against the curb. He kept screaming that he was destroying my life, but my life was no longer in his hands. The worst object was a shelving unit. He shoved it over the balcony railing. It dropped onto a custom luxury car parked below with a sound like a small building collapsing. The windshield exploded. The hood caved in. Metal folded around impact. The car belonged not to a random neighbor, but to Judge Victor Harrow, the retired state appellate judge who owned the building. I did not know that yet. Adrian did not know it either. In Boston, sitting on the edge of my hotel bed, I began shaking so hard the phone slipped from my hand. I was not gleeful. I was not triumphant. I felt grief, real grief. Not for the bookshelf or the chair or the clothes, for the woman who had lived among them and called that endurance marriage. Then something steadier came behind it. He thought he was throwing my life away, but everything he touched was already part of the life I had chosen to leave. Theo called 15 minutes later. "Finish what you need to finish for work," he said. "Then take the train back. Do not go to the apartment. Do not communicate with him unless I tell you. The building has footage, residents have footage. The damaged vehicle owner is not ideal for him." "Who is it?" "Judge Victor Harrow." Even through panic, I understood the weight of that silence. "Oh," I said. "Yes," Theo replied. "Oh." That afternoon, I packed my hotel room with slow hands. I placed the sealed envelope in my briefcase. I checked out. I walked through South Station like a woman moving underwater. As I boarded the train back to New York, my phone rang. Adrian. For the first time that day, his voice was not angry. It was scared. I answered in the quiet vestibule between cars. One hand braced against the wall as the train began to move. Outside the window, New England blurred past in gray and gold. Inside, Adrian breathed into the line like a man who had sprinted into a room and found no door. "Claire," he said, "you need to fix this." The word need should have angered me. Instead, it sounded almost antique. "What happened?" I asked. "Don't do that. Don't use that voice. The building is acting insane. They locked me out. Police are trying to blame me for an accident. Some old man is threatening charges over his car. Madison isn't answering. You need to send money and call whoever you have to call." "An accident?" "I was clearing out your junk." "From the 15th floor balcony?" He inhaled sharply. "You abandoned the apartment." "No, I terminated the lease." "You can't terminate our home." "I was the only leaseholder." "You are my wife." I looked down at my left hand. The pale indent where my ring had been was fading. "No," I said, "I'm not." He scoffed, but it came out thin. "Don't start. I don't have patience for your melodrama. There will be no $3,000, Adrian. Not today, not next month, not ever again." His fear curdled back toward rage because rage was the only room where he knew the furniture. "You are making the biggest mistake of your life. I will divorce you so hard you won't have a paperclip left." And there it was again. Divorce as weapon, divorce as leash, divorce as thunder he believed he alone could summon. I laughed. It surprised both of us. "What is funny?" he demanded. "Adrian," I said, "you can't divorce me. The court entered our divorce judgment this morning." The train rocked gently beneath my feet. For once, Adrian gave me complete silence. I let him sit in it. "What did you say?" he whispered. "Our divorce judgment was entered this morning. The documents you signed 7 weeks ago were filed after I secured my parents, my accounts, and my belongings. You told me to file them if I thought I could survive without you. You tricked me." "No, you signed them." "I didn't mean it." "You notarized it." I was angry. "You were cruel. There's a difference." His breathing grew louder. I could picture him somewhere outside the building, pacing in ruined designer shoes, the life he had performed cracking around him. "I'll challenge it," he said. "I'll tell the court you manipulated me. You are free to hire a lawyer." "With what money, Claire? You froze everything." "I redirected my salary. I closed access where I was legally allowed. I removed you as an authorized user where I could. I flagged suspicious charges. I stopped funding you. Those are not the same as freezing everything. Don't talk like that. Like what? Like you're someone. That one almost got through. Almost. I am someone, I said. That was always your problem. He said nothing. Then I heard tapping. Frantic, uneven. He was checking his bank app. I knew because I had heard that same tapping whenever he ordered dinner with my money and called it business. His personal account, without my monthly deposit, without immediate access to my credit, would be nearly empty. He lived richly in public because he hollowed me out in private. Without me, there was no floor. I'll go to Madison, he said. You can try. What does that mean? It means Madison received a legal notice and a financial packet this afternoon. She now knows your income history, your marital status, your spending, and the source of the money behind her gifts. She gave a witness statement through her own counsel. She wouldn't. She already did. He cursed and fumbled with the phone. For a second, I heard muffled dialing. Then his voice sharpened in panic. She blocked me. I watched the landscape streak by, gray fields and bare trees, old towns flickering at the edge of the glass. He came back on the line different, smaller. Claire, he said, please, I don't have anywhere to go. It was the first honest thing he had said all day. But that woman had paid enough. Judge Harrow is seeking damages for the car, I said. The landlord is filing a property damage claim. My attorney is pursuing repayment for unauthorized charges. Madison may pursue her own claim. There is security footage, audio, messages, and witness statements. From now on, everything goes through counsel. You ruined me. No, I documented you. You can't just throw me away. The train horn sounded in the distance, low and mournful. I didn't throw you away, I said. I stopped carrying you. Then I ended the call. I did not feel triumphant when I hung up. I felt hollow and shaking and old. Freedom, I discovered, does not always arrive as joy. Sometimes it arrives as exhaustion with a key in its hand. As the train approached Penn Station, Theo texted, "Do not come to the apartment." Adrian returned. Police are taking him into custody again. By then, Adrian had lost the ability to understand locked doors. He returned to the Queen's building after being told not to. Cold, humiliated, broke, and blocked by the woman he had used my money to impress, he tried to enter through the service door. Security stopped him. He announced that he lived there. The property manager, who had spent months being polite to him while he ignored her emails, said, "You are not on the lease, Mr. Vale." He tried to push past her. That was when Judge Victor Harrow appeared. I did not see it in person. I saw footage later in Theo's office. Judge Harrow was in his early 70s, tall, composed, wearing a dark overcoat, and the expression of a man who had spent decades listening to liars and was no longer moved by volume. Behind him, under temporary plastic, sat the car Adrian had crushed. Adrian pointed at me without me being there. "My wife will handle it," he said. Judge Harrow tilted his head slightly. "Your former wife's counsel has already clarified that she was the sole leaseholder and properly terminated the lease." Former wife. I wish I could have seen Adrian hear it from a stranger. The property manager showed police the footage. Adrian dragging furniture. Adrian lifting boxes over the railing. Adrian shouting that he would destroy Claire's life. Pedestrians scattering below, the shelving unit dropping like judgment onto Harrow's car. Adrian tried to say items slipped. He tried to say he had been cleaning. He tried to say I had abandoned dangerous property and he was protecting residents. Every lie collapsed under another camera angle. When officers arrested him, neighbors watched from the lobby, the sidewalk, and the windows above. Some filmed. This man, who had once corrected waiters on wine pairings and called my father's watch entry level, was led away in a torn designer suit stained from the Westchester lawn, his hair flattened by sweat, his mouth still moving around arguments nobody needed to hear. Public humiliation mattered to Adrian more than pain. He could turn pain into victimhood. Humiliation gave him no throne. But the real collapse happened later, behind closed doors where the drama was quieter and more permanent. Theo met with Adrian and Adrian's assigned counsel in a controlled legal setting. No movie scene, no dramatic trap, just documents arranged in careful order. The affair spending, the unauthorized card use, threatening messages, the audio, Madison's statement, security footage, the police reports, the consulting business records showing almost no real income, the history from his finance job, the exaggerated education claims on his website, the resume stitched together from implication and arrogance. Adrian had built himself as an image. Theo dismantled him as paperwork. There were still legal processes. There were still claims to resolve. Real life does not end with one perfect courtroom gasp. But the direction had changed. Adrian was no longer controlling the story. He was responding to evidence. That too felt honest. I was not there when he signed. I was on my way somewhere more important. Home. My parents' temporary condo was smaller than their house and smelled faintly of new paint and my mother's pot roast. When Margaret opened the door, she did not say my name. She pulled me into her arms with a force that knocked the breath from both of us. For a second, I held myself together out of habit. Then I saw my father behind her, one hand pressed lightly against his chest, eyes wet, face pale with relief. "You made it out," he said. That was when I finally cried. Not bathroom floor tears, not silent tears angled away from a man who would use them as evidence. Real crying, ugly crying, safe crying. My mother held me. My father put one hand on my shoulder. Nobody told me I was too sensitive. Nobody said I had made them do this. Nobody demanded a transfer, an apology, an explanation, or a smaller version of my pain. Dinner was waiting because my mother believed food could meet grief where language failed. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans with almonds, apple pie cooling on the counter, my childhood on plates. I sat at the table and realized no one was watching how much I ate. No one was calculating whether I deserved comfort. No one was waiting to turn my appetite into a flaw. My phone stayed silent. No insults, no demands, no deadline, no $3,000. I took one bite of apple pie and started crying again because peace felt unfamiliar. That is the thing nobody tells you about leaving. The quiet can hurt at first. Your body has spent so long preparing for impact. That calm feels like the pause before violence. I slept on my parents' sofa that night with every light off and woke 3 times because no one was shouting. 6 months later, the Boston account became one of the biggest wins of my career. Kendra promoted me to regional client strategy lead and told me with a half smile that apparently I did my best work while my personal life was undergoing restructuring. I laughed because she was careful not to call it what it had been in a conference room full of people who did not deserve the story. I rebuilt slowly, not dramatically, slowly. Madison sent one email through her attorney months later. It was brief. An apology, mostly for believing what benefited her and ignoring what should have made her question him. I did not reply. Not because I wished her harm, but because not every apology requires access. Adrian's life became smaller in ways that would have once terrified him. Probation, court dates, wage garnishment for restitution and settlements, low-level jobs that did not care about his theories of executive presence, a rented room in a neighborhood he would have mocked when I still paid for his restaurants. He tried once, through a mutual acquaintance, to send me a message about closure. Theo handled it. My closure was not his to schedule. In late spring, I took my parents to Napa Valley. My father's doctor cleared him for travel. My mother bought a wide-brimmed hat she pretended was practical, and I paid for the flights with money that no longer vanished into Adrian's hands. We stayed at a small inn overlooking vineyards that rolled gold green under the California sun. The story began with rain in Boston and a call that once would have sent me running to a banking app with shaking hands. It ended, or maybe truly began, in sunlight. For 10 years, I thought survival meant keeping him calm. I was wrong. Survival began the moment I stopped paying for my own destruction.